Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can confirm that it is 5:30 and we are now live streaming and recording. You may begin your meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I see that we have all members of council. I see that we have quorum. I call to session this regular meeting of council for Monday, October the 18th at 5:30 p.m. As with all of our meetings, we will start off with the reading of the land acknowledgement. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. Madam Clerk, to you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Corr, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the agenda for the October 18th, 2021 regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Upon viewing the agenda, is there any questions or comments from any members of council? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote begins with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Corr.
Yes.
Councillor Olson. Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that vote carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to disclosure of pecuniary interest.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. After viewing the agenda, does any member of council have a pecuniary interest and general nature thereof to declare? Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The second item on the in-camera item deals with the Penn West Power Incorporation. I'm a member from the Penn West Board and as such declare a conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hahn.
Through the mayor, I would echo the same, as I'm also a member on the board of Penn West, so I too would be exempt from attending that portion of the meeting.
Well, thank you, Councillor. Noted, hopefully, by the clerk.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have so noted.
Thank you.
That does bring you to your first item on the agenda, which is the COVID-19 pandemic update from Chief Limburner.
Okay, Chief, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and Senior Leadership Team. Just a quick brief or a quick update here. So as of today, Pelham has had a total case count of 659. We currently have 0 active cases in the town. Niagara region has a total case count of 17,935. Out of those, 148 are active, and they've resolved 17,353 cases. Total fatalities, number of fatalities is 434. Province-wide, 595,235 total cases. Of those, 581,121 are resolved, with 9,815 fatalities. Our hospital systems continue to wane. Hospital admissions at 145, ICU 168, and ICU on ventilators are 97. And I'll stress this again, that the vast majority of the patients in the hospital today are non-vaccinated persons. Canada has a total case count of 1,681,310. Of those, 1,619,169 are resolved, and we have 28,508 fatalities. Niagara region's case doubling time has gone up to 943 days. Our reproduction rate has gone down somewhat to 0.7. Positivity rate has gone down to 2.7%. Our variants concern remain the same they were last week, with the exception of we picked up a few more Delta cases at 212. Infection spread across Niagara is still relatively the same. Close contact with a confirmed case is a leading cause at 65.6%. Our Niagara Public Health System currently is working with 4 active outbreaks. They've resolved 475. As far as vaccination goes, the Niagara region, we've delivered 720,953 for 76.6% first dose and 72.7% second dose. And then the public health continues to deliver third shot boosters to our most vulnerable citizens. Across the province, they have delivered 22,243,609 total. Of those, 10,848,750 are second doses. Countrywide, 57,394,000 total doses. Our provincial indicators have improved somewhat from last week. Our reproduction rate is green. Positivity rate is in red. Hospital admissions is in green. New cases per 100,000 population is red. New cases daily average remains in red, and new cases unknown is red. The province has introduced the new QR codes for all persons who are fully vaccinated. The MCC will start offering the QR scanning this week. We're just working on it with IT, and we'll have a number of iPads set up in the lobby for people to take advantage of that option. And that's the end of my report. If you have any questions.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Great report. I would just like to comment that it's great to see the provincial percentage of vaccinated eligible people is 83%. So it's nice to see the province get over the 80% mark. Any other comments or questions by members of council on the Chief's report? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Through Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Steward, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved, the council receive the COVID-19 update presentation from B. Limburner, Fire Chief and Community Emergency Management Coordinator for information. Unless there is any additional discussion, this vote will begin with Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that vote carries. Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to the next item on the agenda, being the COVID-19 pandemic update from the CAO.
Mr. CAO, Mr. Cribbs, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council. 3 items to mention this evening in my report. 2, of course, are decision points for you to make tonight. We do have a formal request from the region to extend, you may recall, we have contracts in place whereby the town will continue to offer vaccination clinics at the MCC until through the end of December, the end of the year. The region has requested that we extend that relationship into next year for vaccination clinics that are going to focus on the vulnerable and presumably children. So that's a decision point for you this evening. In addition to that, as per your request or your instruction at the last meeting of council, we did draft some potential amendments to the code of conduct for your consideration later on tonight. And that's, we'll deal with that when we get there. And then lastly, today was the day where staff had to, by close of business by about an hour ago, inform Human Resources as to their vaccination status and trip the corporate policy. So I haven't, at about noon, I know that we weren't at 100%, but we were fairly close. And I don't know the official status of our numbers at the moment. Presumably I'll be able to say something with more authority at the next meeting. But those are sort of three items that are all have moving pieces on them at the moment with respect to COVID. And subject to questions, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Cribbs, Mr. CAO. Any questions or comments from members of council on the CAO's report? And I see Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to our CAO. Is there going to be a motion coming forward with regards to the MCC usage as a vaccination center?
Mr. CAO?
Presumably, Council, we are anticipating you having a vote as to, staff have identified a couple of options, offering the clinics in the Kersey room, or using one gymnasium or two gymnasiums. I think the staff advice to you, our report is recommending going forward with the Kersey room. Of course, it's also an option to not go forward at all. That's also viable. So I'm not sure if I missed your question, sir.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. No, you answered my question. If I could just make my recommendation, that the staff is advising to use the Kersey room, it has huge cost savings for us. Because if you look at the MCC power usage with regards to the use of the gyms for the vaccination centers, you'll see the huge spike because of the systems, the HVAC systems that we have to run and all the impacts it has. The Kersey room doesn't nearly have any significant impact that I've seen so far. So thank you so much for this report.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Mr. CAO. Any other questions, comments? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council receive the COVID-19 update presentation from D. Krebs, Chief Administrative Officer, for information. And unless there's any further discussion, this vote will begin with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to our first delegation this evening. We are joined by Ms. Royale and Ms. Brenz of the Niagara region. I would kindly just ask Ms. Wilford to bring our participants into the meeting. Okay, I do see that they have joined, and I would just like to remind our presenters of the 10-minute presentation limit, and you may proceed when you are ready.
Okay. Ms. Ryall and Ms. Brenz, you have the floor.
I would just like to confirm if our presenters may be muted. We do not have audio on this end.
Ms. Ryall or Ms. Brenz, we are not hearing anything at our end. Still nothing.
I do understand that Ms. Wilford has forwarded the request to unmute. If you could please do so.
Oh, we see you.
Oh, I see that they're connecting to audio. May I suggest to, oh, I believe they're trying again. Unfortunately, we cannot hear you. No. I do believe that Ms. Wilford is in contact with them and trying to set up an alternative.
Okay, thanks. Still nothing here, Catherine?
Mayor Junkin?
Oh, there we go. You're loud and clear.
Perfect. Fourth time a charm, I guess.
There we go. Continue with
We've
your
actually-
presentation.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. We've actually done 6 of these so far. We haven't had any issues, so we appreciate your patience as we are trying to get hooked up here. Pam, we've got the presentation.
Yep, here. Can everybody see that?
Can you see that, Mayor Junkin, the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Good evening. I'm Carolyn Ryle. I'm the Director of Transportation at Niagara Region. This evening I have Frank Tassone, who is the Associate Director of Transportation Engineering here as well. He'll be assisting with the engineering and capital project updates. And I also have Pam Miltenberg, who has been strategically involved in the organization of the transportation capital project. So between the 3 of us, we'll be doing the presentation this evening, and we'll be happy to answer any questions with regards to the information we're presenting here this evening. Go to the next one, Pam. So we're going to be presenting the 1 to 5 year capital forecast regarding the capital budget that we put forward here at the region. If there are any 10-year capital outlook, which are quite a ways out, we often provide that information to the respective councils. I'm going to be talking about some larger safety initiatives just to make sure everyone's aware of a number of the programs that the region is in the midst of rolling out and continue to work on, as well as larger regional vision items that I talk to council here through our public works group that are related option to our transportation master plan. So just to ensure everyone is grounded on how the capital budget allocation works here at the region, when we're putting our budget forward for the annual approvals, we deal with 4 major categories. We deal with our network expansion, intersection improvement program, our roads rehabilitation program, as well as our structure rehabilitation program. Thanks, Pam. To just provide everybody with some context as to what each of these different programs mean, when we're talking about network expansion, these are to deal with the construction of a new road. Often we'll have to deal with, for example, the widening of an existing road. It's to accommodate growth and moving people and goods throughout the region. These are typically identified in the region's transportation master plan, which is our guiding document and all of the capital programs that we bring forward. When we refer to something as part of the capital budget, which is the intersection improvement program, this deals with the modification of an existing intersection. It often is looking at safety of the intersection. It can be the reconstruct to include for additional turning lanes. There will often be curbs added, pavement markings, and it can be even the creation of a new signal and or a roundabout based upon the region's check of just what's going on in that community. When we talk about the roads rehabilitation program, we're referring to something that many of you may have heard of already, which is referred to as the hot mix program. This is a program where we go out and do the annual program where we're topping up, we're shaving off the top element of the asphalt, we're putting down a new top layer, and that's to increase the longevity of the, we'll say the grades below the top surface. So this is an initiative that we're trying to increase the longevity of the road network, and we work here to bring those roads forward throughout all the communities, and we bring that forward, that program forward through our capital ask as well. And then lastly, we've got the structural rehabilitation program, which deals with either a bridge full replacement at the end of a service life of a larger bridge, or a bridge rehabilitation, which again is our attempt to deal with corrections and deficiencies to extend the service life. And those are the different types of programs we put forward. I'm now going to pass it over to Frank to talk to the 1 to 5 year capital outlook. Thanks, Frank.
And thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us tonight. So the first project that we're going to discuss is the Regional Road 37 Merritt Road extension from Niagara Street to Rice Road. And limits of that also includes the section of Merritt Street from Niagara Street to the 406. And we're in the EA stage right now, looking at various cross sections for this extension. And the overall goal of the project is to create another regional link into the Welland and Pelham area, being South Pelham and the northern portion of Welland, that will act as an auxiliary corridor to the Highway 20 corridor, which currently also functions as a regional arterial road. And so as we work through the EA on this project, we'll be selecting a desired cross section and then moving forward with the construction. And we have that currently sitting in our 3 to 5 year forecast. Connected to the previous project is Rice Road from Merritt Road to Quaker Road. And those two projects are being completed within the same EA, but they will likely be staged for construction in separate years. And this will see the upgrading of the rural section of Rice Road from Quaker to Merritt to an urban section. Given the traffic forecasts on the horizon, it'll be built out to its ultimate capacity. We have an intersection project right now that is with a consultant for the design, and we're doing a intersection control study, and that is the intersection of Victoria Avenue at Canberra Road, and we're looking at the addition of either a traffic signal or a roundabout in this area, and part of the consultant's assignment will be to do an intersection control study that will tell us whether this should be a signal or a roundabout, and then we'll follow through with implementation of that in the 1 to 3 year forecast. And currently, as several of you must be aware, that we're currently under construction on Effingham Street from Weber Road to River Road, and happy to say that we should see base asphalt being paved there within the next 2 weeks. And we have every indication at this point would lead us to believe that we will have top asphalt on that project before the snow flies this year. And now I'll pass it back over to Carolyn to speak about some safety initiatives and some visionary initiatives.
Thank you, Frank. So just to ensure everyone is aware of the number of the safety initiatives that are underway currently at the region, is there have been a large number of conversations and approvals around the launch of the Vision Zero Road Safety Program. That is dealing with automated speed enforcement, red light cameras, and a whole host of other initiatives. We have a picture up here talking about the community safety zones, which is one of the first major programs we've already rolled out across the region, with 13 community safety zones in place right now. The intent is to come back to your council to walk them through the larger plan for the Vision Zero Road Safety Program between the end of this calendar year and or January timeframe of 2022. The anticipated launch for bringing the technology down to the region is going to be throughout 2022. The important thing just to note this evening, and again, there'll be more as part of that approval process when we come back to your council, is that we need unanimous support across all 12 of the different municipalities, in addition to regional council, in support of the launch of that program throughout all of Niagara region. So we're excited to bring that back. Again, we'll be talking about the different safety initiatives, the roles and responsibilities between the region and each of the lands, and we'll be looking for your support and ultimately the approval of the recommended approach that we'd like to bring forward in order to roll that out in 2022. A number of programs in working with the mayor, the regional councillor, and a number of you on the line here as well, in addition to staff, deals with pavement line marking, crosswalks. So any requests we get for enhanced paving or signage, we work with the community to have that put out and replaced. We also have an annual pavement marking program that the region goes out and touches all of the regional road network, dealing with delineation lines, arrows, and others. That's an annual program that we work towards. But in addition, any other requests that come from the community or anyone else, we look at it through our safety group here, and then we work with the operational groups to enhance or redo as required. We also have our speed display trailer, which you also can see in the image here to the far right. Again, we work very closely with the Niagara Regional Police. Speeding falls under their jurisdiction. However, even though we're communicating all of those different inquiries and complaints that come to transportation, we do pull out the speed trailer. This is to provide driver awareness with regards to speeds on the roadway. We're able to record those speeds, and then we're able to provide that information back to the Niagara Regional Police to assist with time of day, and also to analyze what actually is happening out on the road from an average traveling speed for us to see if the speeding actually is occurring. So it's been a very good tool. We have a priority list based on any inquiry that we receive, again, whether it's from a council member or whether it's from the general public. We have a priority list, and we pull out 2 of our trailers on the regional road network, again, to record what's happening on the different regional roads. And then sign installations, again, is just another program. If we receive any inquiry about something missing or something that needs to be enhanced, we take it back. We always follow, if it's a no TAM book requirement or an MTO guideline, we base all of those decisions on those different guidelines and regulations and ensure that that is up and out as required. Okay. And then to just close, regional visionary items, just to keep everybody again informed, there is a complete streets assignment, which is currently underway. This was an item that was identified in the region's transportation master plan. What it's looking to do is it's looking at all the different regional roads across Niagara region. They are assigned right now or designated a different typology. And what I mean by that is something from we'll say a rural cross section up to an urban. There's a very large stakeholder group assembled with the consultant that the region has hired and awarded the program to. There was a representative from Pelham that sits on that, as well as every other municipality. And it's really for us to come together on a consistent toolkit of what the different cross sections will look like. And then eventually we'll be working to finalize roles and responsibilities from things regarding active transportation, signage, landscape, what the road platform will be, again, from a consistency perspective in each of the different communities when you're on a regional road network. Next steps with regards to this program will be when we're closer to completing that program, we'll be bringing that back to Public Works with a presentation, as well as a delineation between, again, the roles between the region and the municipalities once the partners have come to that conclusion, and we'll be looking for approval as we move forward. So a lot of the complete streets is just finalizing the good work that's happening between the partners right now. And again, it's going to be a consistent set of guidelines that we'll be able to follow and give us some level of consistency, again, from a design as well as a budgeting perspective between the partners. Next, rolling out of the complete streets will be something referred to as the regional wayfinding, again, to the picture to the right. This is an assignment that was identified again in the region's transportation master plan. We do not currently have funding for that, but it is the next logical step that we will be bringing forward, looking for approval through the funding process to move that into the next portion of the project. Again, across the regional road network and working with each of the different respective municipalities, we're going to look for a consistent but also a strategic way how we want to identify different historical, for example, locations in each of the municipalities as you're driving along the regional road network. So that'll be a subsequent assignment that we'll be looking for funding and then awarding a consultant and putting a larger stakeholders group together, again, as we work as partners. The Niagara-Hamilton Trade Corridor is a redundant highway system that there has been a huge amount of heavy lifting, and it's a visionary item that's been in the works for over 20 years here at the region. It has been identified through, again, the transportation master plan, and there has been more recent work done with the federal and provincial levels of government on looking for some initial funding on how we'd like to advance this secondary redundant highway from the QEW Fort Erie as it makes its way to Hamilton. We are still at the infancy early stages, but again, from a regional perspective and working with each of the municipalities, we're needing to put the planning pieces in place now in order to be successful with the longer term build out and construction of that program. And then lastly, there has been quite a bit of work underway here at the region regarding the new Escarpment Crossing. This is a program that was started and placed on hold. It is going to be in the town of Grimsby. Many of you may be aware of the Bartlett Extension and have that name as well. This is going to be an environmental assessment that'll be looking at moving goods and services up the escarpment. And that environmental assessment process is something the region is targeting to launch in 2022 of next year with initial funding dollars that we've already been approved. And there'll be a large number of municipalities as part of that stakeholders group as well, so that we're all working together in concert on the vision and the overall strategy for the implementation of this. And I'll leave it there with thank you for having us this evening. We appreciate your time, and we can open it up to any questions now from council.
Great. Thank you, Catherine and company, for a great presentation. And indeed, I have a few questions, but I'll go to council first. And I see Councillor Olson, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the delegates, and thank you for your presentation. I'm looking at the town of Pelham East Font Health Secondary Plan, which is sort of at the center of the areas you're describing. The road coming up, the cross section is going to be, I believe it's going to be no sidewalks, paved shoulder for bicycles, and 2 lanes. Now it comes up to our road, our Merritt Road, and it is a collector neighborhood main street with sidewalks on both sides. Is there any consideration being given to sidewalks on the region portion of the road?
Ms. Ryhall?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, with respect to the extension of Merritt, we are looking at several different cross sections right now, and all that include active transportation. And so we haven't landed on the exact final configuration yet, but active transportation is part of all of those cross sections, and we'll be thoroughly vetting those.
Okay, thank you. In the Rice Road section from Merritt to Quaker, I believe the cross section that was presented to a town meeting was 2 lanes, 2 parking, 2 sidewalks, and 2 bicycle paths. Is that? I think I heard you say that was going to be measured or moved to some capacity. Does that mean 4 lanes there for that section of the road?
We're currently looking at a 4-lane section for that area. However, it will be an ultimate build out of 4 lanes. So the original and initial construction will likely be 2 lanes with active transportation, with the ability to expand to 4 lanes in the future when traffic demands require.
Okay, will there be a traffic study to go with this? Because the areas there we have are the Rosewood Estates off Rice Road. Then we have what I'm going to call the Kunda Park Central area there. The traffic is going to be, I think that's going to be pretty heavy up through there. So I assume there must be a traffic study along with the environmental assessment.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a full traffic study that's being undertaken as part of the EA that will look at all of the surrounding developments with their future build-out years with a horizon of 2041.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hahn.
Thank you, through the mayor, to the presenters. Thanks for the presentation. Question with regards to the Merritt Road extension. So are you at the point now where you've decided whether you're going to do a light or a roundabout at that intersection, as well as also too when you move forward with the one at Quaker? Thanks.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we are looking at both options right now. We have not identified the preferred option, but we are looking at a couple of locations where roundabouts could be implemented through that section. And when we get to the 3rd PIC, we will be showing the recommended alternative, which could be roundabouts. We just haven't made that decision yet.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions from IEC? Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenters. Thank you very much for this comprehensive presentation. My question has to do with safety initiatives, and specifically about pavement line markings and crosswalks. This has been a real challenge for us, especially in the ward that I represent, for the schools, for the speed bumps and all that. The region is responsible, but we've not had, this last year, we've not had the region come out, as far as I know, and address any of those issues. Actually, for the speed bumps, we've had to spend our own municipal monies to get this work done. And I know it's a priority from the region, but obviously, I'm not sure who gets the priority. Can you respond to
that? Through the chair, thank you for the question. So the region is maintaining, when I talk about the crosswalks and the line and pavement markings on the regional road network. So we have an annual program that we go out and we will enhance those markings annually on the regional road network. I think you may be referring to municipal streets when you're mentioning speed bumps. There's no speed bumps on regional roads. So for clarification, we work closely with all municipalities if there are available resources for us to come out and assist with doing line marking for the municipality. We work very closely with Director Marr on the line here and other directors, again, based on our availability and our resources. And in the past, when we have been able to come out, we do come out and we do assist with that. And there's a working relationship between the region and the LAM on that. If we don't have the resources, or it could be weather dependent as another issue, depending on how much rain there is, we communicate that, and then it will be the municipality that will have to look into the resources under their operating program to have that work done. Is it a municipal road that you're referring to, Councillor, or are you talking about the regional road network?
No, not necessarily the regional road. I'm talking about municipal roads, but I was of the understanding that we had a contract with the region to take care of all this for us. So that's where the confusion occurred, because I'm not sure who was ultimately responsible, and that's the reason for this question.
So through the chair, the region's responsibility is to deal with the regional road network. And again, it's a relationship and coordination that we will do for each of the municipalities if there is, again, depend on weather, equipment availability and resources, that we will assist the municipality, but ultimately on the municipal network, it's up to the municipality to enhance that to start.
Thank you.
And I see the Director of Public Works, Mr. Marr, would like to make a statement. Go ahead, Mr. Marr.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo those comments, that's correct. The local municipalities have an arrangement with the region, at least Pelham does, to undertake their line marking. We get economies of scale and get competitive pricing through the region to complete that work. With respect to the line markings on the road this year, my understanding is that with redeployment of resources from the region's end, they've gotten a little bit behind on completing their own works. That is being undertaken. The municipality, the town, is in contact with the operations department from the region, and we're looking to get that work completed this fall still. We did undertake to hire a third-party private contractor to do our school zones and the crosswalks and stop bars in our critical areas, as well as those speed bumps. So we have gone ahead and done that work, and we're still working with the region, hopefully getting them in the fall to complete the other line marking that needs to be done throughout the town.
Thank you, Director Marr.
Thank you, Director. And Lisa Hahn, or I'm sorry, Councillor Hahn.
Yes, through the mayor. Fully recognizing your presentation is about regional roads. I do have a question, because I have to think that there is some forecasting that has to be done in conjunction with the municipalities as well, to speak to municipal roads. And that is, as Fenwick area continues to grow and is planned to grow in the future, our roads are thoroughfares, so Welland Road, Canberra Road, Foss Road are becoming extremely busy. That being said, is there a plan in place to address the influx of people moving to these areas? Because we have more people coming to the area, but we don't have any more roads. So we're going to have traffic issues. So I guess, is there something that you can speak to here to provide some assurance that there is some long-term planning here to speak to the movement of traffic in and around these areas, as opposed to funneling everything through the downtown core.
So through Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
we are looking at that, and in 2009, the region undertook a transportation sustainability review that looks at the overall road network through the entire region. We are soliciting a consultant to come back online in 2022 to do an update to the sustainability review, and that review looks at the overall road networks for the region and for all 12 municipalities. And it recommends roads that should be jurisdictionally changed or uploaded or downloaded based on traffic projections for a specific period of time. So we are looking at the overall network throughout the entire region and the distribution of traffic and making recommendations on which roads should be regional roads and which roads should be local municipal roads. So I'm happy to say that in 2022, we will be starting an assignment that will update that 2009 study, which may recommend uploads or downloads in the area.
So further to that, thank you. And further to that, then, would this council likely to see the results of this report, or the future council?
It's my assumption and schedule that we would likely not see the completion of that report until sometime in 2023.
Okay, thanks very much.
Right. Thank you, Council. Any other questions, comments? I'll turn to Councilor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation. Roads and road safety is a hot topic in Pelham. On your slide number 9, you speak about automated speed enforcement. Is that the same as the speed display trailer, or is that something different?
Through the chair, that's something completely different. So the automated speed enforcement is a new technology that we're bringing down to Niagara region, again, pending the approvals that we require. And in community safety zones, which we have 13 currently approved, and we've got them in school zones, under the legislation of the province, we're able to put a technology out there referred to as an automated speed enforcement, and it's a camera. So what it's going to do is it's going to be monitoring the speeds in the community safety zone, and it'll be issuing offenses to those driving a certain percentile above what the road is tracking. So as part of the presentation that the region will be coming back to do before your council, I'll be talking about red light cameras, the number that we're looking to start with the launch of the program, as well as the number of automated speed enforcement pieces of technology, how we're going to rotate them throughout the region for the initial launch of this program. And then the intent, obviously, is through driver awareness and behavior of this program to be assisting with speed violations that we're seeing on the regional road network throughout all of the region.
So thank you for that. So how does municipality get their own automated speed enforcement in place?
Through the chair, so that'll be something we'll be chatting about as part of the presentation. The initial launch of the program, again, with the limited number of pieces of technology we're purchasing, is targeting the higher volume, often higher speed roadways, which are the regional road network. There will be the conversation down the road with the municipalities participating in that, but the intent of the program is really just to get it lifted, get it operating, so we can continue to analyze it and then expand the program as we need to throughout the adjacent upcoming years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Oh, I see Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the intersection of Regional Road 24 and Canberra Road. You mentioned the possibility of a traffic light or a roundabout. It seems to me that a roundabout takes up a lot more space. So would that, if that was the option, would it require any expropriations? And do you have any kind of a general cost comparison between a signaled intersection and the building of a roundabout? Thank you.
Yeah, so through Mr. Mayor, I recognize that a lot of times there's a perception that the roundabouts require a lot more property. However, we found through the roundabouts that we've implemented to this point that to put in a proper signalized intersection, which would include turning lanes on all four legs, or to put in a roundabout does not often create a need for that much more property. So without knowing the exact configuration at this time, it's really not possible to say whether there will be any property required. However, expropriation is not our first means to acquire property. We would always try to negotiate fairly with the property owner if any property was required, but it's a little premature for us to say for sure right now, number one, if it would be a roundabout or a signal, and number two, if there would be a need for additional property if it was a roundabout.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that several people have talked to me about missing signs after the spring, and these were signs on Highway 20 for the crosswalks. And I'm just wondering if this is the opportune time to mention this and perhaps have them replaced or restored or whatever it was.
To the presenter.
Through the chair, thank you for that. I'll take that back. Staff drive the regional road network daily, so I'll have them out there tomorrow checking specifically for the crosswalk, any missing crosswalk signs.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And the other thing that residents are telling me is the speed, of course, and I'm pleased to see that you have initiatives about the speed, because the speeds that are being traveled on our roads are not survivable in a collision, especially by a child or a pet. And certainly most adults, I don't think, would survive a collision with a vehicle moving at the speeds that they move on our streets. Mm-hmm. The second thing I would like to ask about is the road allowance on Merritt Road. That's an unopened road allowance that crosses a provincially significant wetland and a woodland and a fish habitat. And you have a row of utility poles along the one side of the road. Are those constraints going to be perhaps reducing the width of the road, or what's going to happen there?
So through Mr. Mayor, when we undertake the environmental assessment, we have to undergo many reports and studies that address the environmental impacts to the area before we make any decisions on ultimate road widths or cross sections. And of course, there's always a necessity for us to reduce the amount of damage that we do to significant wetlands and woodlots. So that'll all be taken into consideration and will be approved by the ministry before we undertake the project. So we are undertaking those studies as part of the environmental assessment process.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to your Vision Zero road safety program.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions for the presenters? I just have one, if I may, and that was touched on by Councillor Stewart, the intersection of Highway Victoria Avenue and Canberra Road. Interesting that you are looking at it as a roundabout. I guess this isn't time to go into Highway Lessons 101. It'd be interesting to know the what qualifications make a roundabout happen and what qualifications make a signal light happen. Once you get used to roundabouts, the signaled intersection seems so old-fashioned, but I'm sure that the region has standards they follow, and it'll be interesting to see what prevails at that intersection. Again, thank you for the presentation. It was great to see the region is looking at our roads in Pelham, the main roads, and we look forward to more presentations, and especially the continued public input on the Merritt Road extension. Again, thank you.
Thank you for having us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive the Niagara Regional presentation entitled 1 to 5 Year Transportation Capital Budget Outlook for Information. If there are no further comments, this vote will begin with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand. Councillor Hildebrand?
No.
Oh, I believe you are muted, sir.
Our screen says it's not
Oh,
muted. I
perfect.
said yes.
Thank you. Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
And that carries. Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to the adoption of minutes. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. SC 16, 2021, Special Council Meeting, October 4th, 2021, and RC 16, 2021, Regular Council Meeting, October 4th, 2021. Mr. Mayor, I would ask that you call for any errors or omissions.
Oh, thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any error or omissions on the minutes in question? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote begins with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are at item 7 of the agenda. As council is aware, council may lift an item from the consent agenda if they wish to amend the resolution presented. If any councillors wish to simply comment on an item, they are not required to lift said item. Therefore, members of council, if there's any items that you wish to lift, please do so advise.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any councillor wish to lift a consent agenda item? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the consent agenda. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the October 18th, 2021 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. If council has any comments, now would be the time to speak those comments. For ease of discussion, the mayor has requested that the discussion occur by category. Therefore, the first category I will call for discussion is COW reports. If any councillor has any comments on COW reports, please feel free to speak those now.
Okay, councillor. I see Councillor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have questions on a couple of the different COW reports, but I'll go in order. The first one is the Public Works. The design of Pelham Street North was supposed to address speeding, yet it's still a problem. What can be done to reduce the speed on Pelham Street North, and also Port Robinson Road is a significant problem also, and how can that road be addressed also?
Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with respect to the first project, the Pelham Street North project, we do have a speed display sign that's up. It is also collecting data. I know we've looked at the data. There are some outliers where we do have speeding traffic, but in general, the speeds are not as excessive as some people are depicting. One thing I can do, I can promise to bring back a report. I think I have in the past. I will bring back another report with the updated speed data for council's consideration. I don't have that information handy with me tonight to comment on, but I will make a note of that to get that information back in front of council at a future council meeting. We are completing that project. The line markings still need to be completed. That'll finish off the contract work. If you recall, council directed staff to look at a warrant study for a stop controlled intersection at the intersection of Pelham Street North and Short Hills Place. That study was undertaken. The results of that study came back that a stop controlled intersection was not warranted at that intersection. However, staff are monitoring the situation, and we continue to receive complaints with respect to traffic on that road. I would direct the residents, if they want to see some further measures implemented, that we direct them to the town's neighborhood traffic management policy, which is found on the town's website. And there's directions there on how the residents can get together to have staff do some more detailed investigations and look into possible solutions for traffic concerns on that road.
Councillor?
And what about Port Robinson?
So with respect to Port Robinson Road, staff are also monitoring that situation. As part of the capital budget that was approved in 2021, we have secured 4 additional speed zone signs, speed indicator signs. One of those signs was designated to be installed on Port Robinson Road. That has been completed. This particular road is a heavily used road, high traffic volumes. It is a straight, long section of road. So staff are listening to the residents with respect to possible traffic calming measures. Again, this is something that would be directed better through our traffic management policy, our traffic calming policy, to go through that process. But in particular, Port Robinson Road, we have identified issues with respect to higher speeds, and it being in a school zone. We're paying particular attention to that. So this is something that staff will be looking at in more detail to try to come up with solutions. There's still quite a bit of development that's happening along Port Robinson Road, so it's hard to install those measures right now. But once the development fills in and we look at completing that roadway with top asphalt, we can look at installing some type of traffic calming measures. So that's what I can offer at this point in time.
Council?
Yeah, so just thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Meyer. Just one more comment with respect to Port Robinson Road. There's a speed sign going in one direction. Is it possible to get a speed sign showing each direction?
For you, Mr. Mayor, obviously that will be something that would have to be funded. As part of the capital program, I think we purchased 4 additional speed indicator signs. Off the top of my head, I believe they're on Canberra Road, Effingham, Port Robinson, and Welland, I believe. As well, we have one on Pelham Street North that we had purchased last year. So there's opportunity to put additional speed indicator signs out. They do cost money. Those would have to be budgeted for. Additional signs would have to be budgeted for as part of the 2022 capital budget. Just to give an idea, I did speak to the manager of Public Works on this particular item because I felt it would come up. The effort involved in moving those signs that we have now, they are solar powered. They do take about a day's worth of work to relocate to a new location and install properly. So we can move those signs around and that's not a problem, but we would like to keep them in one area for at least a period of 1 month before we move them. So long response, but let me take that back to the manager of Public Works and see if we can possibly move that sign in the other direction to collect some data and find out what the speeds are in the other direction.
Yeah, thank you. It's it should be a budget item. Like, people who are driving one way aren't seeing those speed signs. So, it would behoove us to have it facing both directions. Thank you, Mr. Marr.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor, you had any other issues on the cow items?
So that was my only one on the with respect to Public Works, I do have other items.
Okay, let me go to another councilor and we'll come back to you then, sir. Councilor Olson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, for Director of Public Works. Looking at your report, the work orders open and closed. That looks like a pretty fine, really good ratio of the work orders being closed. I think that the department should be commended for that. I have a question about the Foss Road, Church Street, the increased cost on those items, and wonder what the budget implications are going to be with each one of those, because it appears that the cost is going to be substantially higher than what was originally budgeted for.
Comments, Director?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Staff brought a report in front of council a few months back with respect to an update on Foss Road and Church Road, sanitary sewer installation projects in Fenwick. Before the geotech work was done, there was budgets presented. With respect to Foss Road, there was prior approved funding approved through a capital project with council's approval in the order of $1.3 million. On completion of geotechnical work and dealing with the CP Rail Authority, we have to look at using a non-invasive underground trenchless technology. And at this particular site, because of the high water tables and the fluid soils in the area, they're recommending a microtunneling technique, which adds significant cost to the project. So with that particular project, we're looking for additional costs of 2.1 to complete that work, 2.1 million. So the total cost on that project would be in the order of $3.4 million for the Foss Road crossing. With Church Street, the soil conditions are a little bit different, and we're hoping to use more conventional jack and bore type process to still a trenchless method, but using a jack and bore method to get the sanitary sewer across the CP rail right away. And so there was never any approved budget for Church Street. There was only money designated in the forecast. So the total project cost for Church Street, I believe, is in the order of $2.5 million to complete that project. So an increase of about $800,000 to what we had in our forecast for that work.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any more on this to the Public Works? Oh, what is the category?
We're currently in the cow report.
Yeah,
category.
cow reports. Any more on the cow reports, obviously? You can go ahead, Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Planning Director. I noticed in the planning report, it talks about the comprehensive parking study. It gives no schedule nor completion date. Can the Director please advise what those dates are?
Director of Planning, Ms. Weens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not have a completion date. We just finished the survey, was closed a week, 10 days ago. So the consultants have that information, and I have reached out to them also to find out the timing on when we might be getting the draft report. I would expect it in November, but I don't have that confirmed yet, so I'm not able to say for certain when that project will be complete.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the cow reports? Director, Councillor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to the Recreation, Culture and Wellness report, the Councillor Cholfie dedication project was, we provided $5,000 on February 16th to go towards that project with respect to the Servery Bar area at the MCC. Do we have any update on what direction that's going?
Ms. Van Ravensway?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the project is coming along wonderfully. Councillor Hahn and Councillor Stewart both sit on that committee. I believe that there is a opening being planned at the end of the month.
So, councillors, can you provide any further update on that, please?
Councillor Hahn, please.
Through the mayor, yes, with regards to the $5,000 that is in question, we will not be using the $5,000 from the town. So that money will not be. We've had donations from businesses and from private citizens, and we will not be using the $5,000 that the town has initially put aside. When that was asked for at that point in time, it was asked, and the mayor, I believe, if I recall correctly, had asked if that money would be used, and I said that hopefully not. Hopefully we'd have enough donations, and that was in fact the success that we've had. So we will not be using that $5,000 from the town.
So that's great news. Thank you for that. With respect to the project itself, is there going to be any opening with respect to that?
There will be a reception appreciation reception for those people that have donated towards this to the actual project. Yes.
So will council and the mayor be invited to that?
At this point, it is a reception to show appreciation for those people that have donated, and at this stage, no.
So this is public property that we've offered for this project. Would it not seem appropriate that council attend?
I'll take it back for consideration by the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, did I see Councillor Stewart? Did you have your hand up on Cowie Ports?
Yes, I did. On, where is it, 8.3.6, on the current bids and tenders, there's one that I'm wondering about. It's invitation to bid 2021-CS-07 to review and analyze the corporate services functions. It was budgeted at $143,000. And we had 3 bids of, varying amounts. And I'm not saying that every tender should, go to the lowest bidder, but I'm wondering why of the 3, it went to the highest bidder when there was only a 6-point difference in evaluation score between the high and the low.
Okay, thank you for that question, Stuart. Councillor, Director of Finance, Ms. Quinlan.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, an evaluation was done. There were 3 individuals that did the evaluation. This tender, this amount here, is fully funded by the modernization grant of $143,500, and the successful proponent had better qualifications to do this type of review. It's not just based on the dollar amount. That's one component of the evaluation process. The other components that we have listed various sections in the evaluation process, and FH Black was the most successful one and has the most relevant experience to do this type of review.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for that, Madam Treasurer. I see Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Van Wavensway. I noticed on your report that you have indicated that the River Park Estate development there, the park development, is I think it's already started now, and you had a very successful pound the table or whatever, bang the table or whatever it's called there, that process for design. And I looked at the design, and it really is quite attractive.
Any comments? Any comments, Madam?
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. Yes, the bang the table process is very successful, and we're able to give the public 3 options. And I'm happy to say it is being installed as we speak, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks, it will be complete.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? Oh, yep.
Thank you. I just wondered.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'm still mulling over the idea of the notion of having a private dedication on in a public building. It strikes me as quite wrong. I think to give it the proper gravity, I think that council should be there, and it certainly should be the role of the mayor to do the dedication or ribbon cutting or whatever is required.
Okay, thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Ms. Van Ravensway, for the park update. Any other questions, comments on cow reports? Councillor Hahn.
Through the mayor, just wondering what the status of the emergency management review.
And for that, I believe we'll go to the CAO. Oh, I guess I could go to the fire chief. What do you prefer, Mr. CAO?
I always like listening to the fire chief. I think he brings a lot of wisdom, and I often learn things.
Okay, we'll go to the fire chief. Chief Limburner?
Well, one thing I can update you on is the Bills are doing far better than the Lions are this year. So there's your one lesson. But
I already knew that.
Yeah, the RFP for emergency management review has closed. We're just in the process of reviewing, and we're going to have a 3-person panel, and we'll be doing that very shortly. So as soon as the panel does the scoring, we will be awarding the contract to the successful bidder.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart, is that your hand I see up? Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay. Then let's, Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the fire chief. I noticed that Farm 911, there's a rebate now of $50 assigned for the signage for our farmers. Is that going to be publicized somehow on the town website?
The rebate has actually been in place since the beginning of the project for a couple of years now. The OFA has stepped up when we first presented this. Pelham was the first municipality in the area to adopt the program, and the OFA had come forth and offered. We haven't put it on the website, the town's website, but maybe the mayor could kind of enlighten me. Is it on the farm communications, the farmers?
I'm not a member of the OFA, so which is the main organization in the region. So I don't know if it's on the website or not. I don't know that.
Yeah, I had attended a number of OFA meetings and to promote the project, and they, within their own members, they have promoted this quite heavily. We do have a number of signs that are currently or have been installed in the last couple of years. Yeah. So,
yeah, it was on the Niagara Federation of Agriculture website, and it refers to $50 rebate of $50 each for up to 5 signs supplied by the Niagara region, and you can apply through the visit your municipality's website and contact Town Hall for an application. I think it's a new thing because the date on it appears to be, well, it's the 9th of October. So.
Okay, yeah, it goes through our office that handles the application. So I'll talk to our communications person, and we will get that information out there for sure. We'll put it on the website.
Yeah. Councillor Olson?
Yes, and finally to the chief, I like reading these quarterly reports because I get to see all kinds of things that all the departments are doing. And one of the things that I noticed in the fire report this month is the anniversaries. And there's some significant anniversaries that 20-year, 25 years, 20 years again for groups of people. And I'm just wondering if there's a way in times of pandemic like this where we can honor these people and their families, because these people are making considerable sacrifices. And I'm sure the chief and his officers have taken care of this, but I think as a town, we have a real debt of gratitude for the volunteers in our fire department. They're real models for leadership and for contribution and service. And I think I can say this right now, and I appreciate it. And I'd like to see something a little more formal if it was possible.
Before the chief answers, I can remember when I was on council 2014 to 2017 that it was quite an event when these firefighters had the service awards presented to all of council, and it was a pretty big evening to see the firemen come in here, whether it was 5, 10, or however many. And as Council Olson has pointed out, getting 20, 25-year award, service awards. Obviously, in the pandemic, that obviously isn't going to happen. Are you planning anything special then, Chief, or the paper being notified? What steps would you be taking?
With you, Mr. Mayor, well, thanks. First of all, thanks for your kind words. It's always nice to acknowledge service awards. And pre-COVID, the format that we had in place was one of every few months when firefighters read or met milestones for medals, whether it be provincial or federal, we would schedule them on the council agenda for a presentation by the mayor and senior staff. And we'd also annually at our installation nights, which all the council was invited to, we would present the medals once again in ceremony. So I kind of really like that format. I have a small mountain of medals and acknowledgements in my office here that I've been accumulating for the last 2 years. And I really don't want to give up the ability to present them in a public forum. So, I mean, we could do something in the paper, but I'm really kind of hoping that COVID clears up to the point where we can start to meet in person, and we'll have a couple busy nights of presentation. So I'd like to stick with that. If council would like that give me some direction, if they'd like me to go through the paper and do it now, I will. But I certainly would like to keep with the old format.
Okay. Thank you. Myself, I'll go to Councillor Olson, but you waited this long, and myself, I would vote for wait a little longer. Councillor Olson?
Yes, I'd be satisfied to wait. I've been waiting for 50 years for professional hockey to come to Toronto, so I can wait for a little while to get this. So.
Okay, that's enough, Councillor. Thank you. Okay, any other comments on the cow reports? And not seeing any. I believe I just have one to the Director of Public Works, and that is on the report on the Station Street erosion problem. I know that we've had a hard time getting Hydro to agree to many things on that project. I hope that the consultants and the contractor and the town will continue to work with Hydro, Director Marr, and I know that was one of the big holdups that it didn't get done this year. Are we continuing conversation and communication with the Hydro to make sure we get everything ready to go in 2022?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. That's where the project stands right now. There's been discussions with Hydro, between Hydro and the contractor and the consultant. Those conversations are continuing. At this point in time, I can't offer any further information on that and where those discussions are. But my understanding is they're still trying to negotiate the entrance onto Hydro lands to complete that work.
Excellent. Thank you for that. One last thing, I was talking to the contractor today down in Sulphur Springs due to the lateness of the finishing up on the water works, and actually they're obviously still doing the road. He informs me and that the tree planting, it's being agreed that the tree planting will be waiting till next spring. Is that a correct statement from a contractor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So those discussions were had on site. I know that we're waiting for a recommendation from the contractor's engineering firm, but that would be, in my opinion, that would be the way forward on this one, and we would want to run that by NPCA, and also to see what type of temporary erosion measures would have to be in place during the winter season. But yeah, I believe that the contractor's intention is to get the site secured in place for the winter, come back and finish final course asphalt paving and do the final landscaping work in the spring.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if there are no further comments on COW reports, the next category I will call for discussion is information correspondence, excluding regional correspondence.
Okay, thank you. On the regional, is there any comments or questions on those consent agendas? Councillor Hildebrand. Are you on mute, sir?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you for that. Maybe it's best that I be on mute sometime.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Anyway, I have comments on item 8.5.6.1, 8.5.6.3, and 8.5.6.4. So I'll only deal with the first one first, which is 8.5.6.1. That's where the region is supporting a speed reduction on highways from 50 kilometers down to 40 kilometers per hour. It seems like a huge reduction in Vision Zero areas. What kind of discussions have been held with the regional council on that kind of decision? It just, 40 is really slow as far as I'm concerned.
If I may, I believe I read that. I know when I came to regional council, it raised a lot of eyebrows. It is asking to support St. Catharines and asking the ministry to do that. So I think it's got to go to the provincial level, and they will kick it around before it comes back to the region. But it is asking, I believe it's, I can't bring it up on my computer, but it's supporting St. Catharines to ask the provincial ministry to allow that to happen. You're right. It is quite a drop.
Right. Well, I'll continue with 8.5.6.3. The next one after that, which is transit, will be rather lengthy, so I'll just stop after 8.5.6.3. This is all the regional reports.
Yes.
There's a huge amount of data and a huge amount of stuff. But whenever I scan through these, I'm always shocked by what I read. This one really grabbed my attention because it has to do with the city of Thorold. It's PD 5 of 36, 2021, Chapter 5, page 9, September 2021. The city of Thorold, Appendix 3.4. Thorold has an existing facility outside the urban area, but the front of the property is on the, in the right area. That needs to, and this property needs to be connected to full municipal services. The staff suggestion from Thorold to the official plan was that the policy be added to the official plan that allows municipality-owned facilities located outside service areas to connect their existing infrastructure where adequate capacity exists. Since municipal facilities have become an essential piece of the city emergency plan and its importance to be fully serviced. The COVID pandemic has confirmed this. The answer on the official plan by the regional planners was this: although the consideration of connectivity of municipal service should be considered, it begins a dangerous precedent for other users of this request. They were allowed to connect the municipal water, but the municipal services, although it's in front of their building, they cannot connect to. It doesn't make common sense looking at it from the outside that if we had a facility like that, the new official plan would stop us from connecting to facilities that are sitting right in front of our property, and because of some new official plan, they disallow it.
So,
I used to think that sewage systems, like sewers, were cheap, like $20,000. I just recently had a resident tell me their quote on their sewer system, because there's water and streams involved, is now $60,000 for a house. On a municipal property, I would guess you're talking six figures. I can't believe when we're talking affordability on housing that we're going to plunder the local municipalities for $100,000 because of a new official plan that will cause that municipality to impose this on the local taxpayers. It just doesn't seem to make sense. And this has all gone through the municipal regional council. It's just my comment. That's all. I'm going to stop there.
okay, thank you, Councillor. I'm going to go to the Director of Planning, but before I do that, I know when this came to Regional Council, it was the hookups of water services that was contentious, because there's a lot of, in Niagara on the lake, there's farmers that are wanting to hook up to the water line that comes to their property edge, if not by it, but they're not allowed because I believe the capacity that they would want couldn't be supported by the water main that was there. So I go to Director of Planning, Ms. Weens. Any comments on the councillor's on his comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Certainly the current policies in the Region of Niagara official plan do not allow for individual connections for sanitary, sewer, or water services outside the urban area boundary. There have been in the past exceptions made, and that does take capacity away from lands in the urban area where it was planned for, and then that causes capacity issues at the plant. And we have that situation similarly in Pelham. Along Rice Road, you do have a regional trunk, but you do not have a municipal distribution system. And the region does not allow for direct connections into the trunk system because that is a major flow system, and you have greater problems and maintenance issues when you connect directly into the trunk. So depending on the circumstance, the region has various reasons why connections outside of the urban area boundary are not permitted. And if they do permit them, they want them to go through the planning approval process, which is to require a regional official plan amendment to permit those connections. That's been a long-standing policy position in the region's official plan for many years. It's not a new position, but planning for regional infrastructure and treatment facilities, the trunk system, and then the local distribution system is very costly. And certainly the cost of putting in your own private sanitary sewage system is costly, and it's not cheap. So, these connections also shouldn't be made at the expense of the urban area where it was planned for, and where the capacity is meant to be directed. In this Thorold circumstance, I can't speak to the details around it. I believe it is the Thorold Public Works Yard, but I might be mistaken on that. I don't know the specifics in that case, if it's a regional trunk or line that they're looking for a service connection on. So I can't speak to the specifics of it, but there are and have been for many years long-standing policies in the region's official plan that really restrict and limit connections to municipal services outside your urban boundaries.
Thank you for that. Councillor, I'll give you any one last comment on that, perhaps, or not?
My comment was the comment made by the official, by the planning department, didn't even give them any consideration or advice, just said that it was as I read, although the consideration of connectivity of municipal service should be considered, it starts a dangerous precedent for other uses or requests. So to me, they didn't even answer the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Any other questions on the region? And I see Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, 8.5.6.4, is that an item that I can comment on?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay, at this point, it's just a couple of observations here. And I see that the approval rating is 95%, which strikes me as very high. So I went back and I did a little bit of study and checked on Innisfil, Ontario, Uber, and their approval rating was roughly 83%. So it appears to me that our riders are satisfied. And then I looked at the average wait time. Innisfil, 85% of the people would be happy if the wait time was 15 minutes. So we're at 16.9 minutes, and it would seem to me that that's a pretty reasonable comparison, and looks to me like we're doing fairly well. And my request is to the CAO, understanding that he's still in discussions and able to make suggestions to the on-demand people. First of all, I would like to suggest that perhaps we should have kiosks in some of the main destinations to order rides, and I think that's probably going to be the universities and the hospitals and maybe the shopping centers. I would like to suggest maybe extended hours on the Friday and Saturday nights, and I know there's a cost for this, but this would accommodate people working late on the Friday and Saturday nights and babysitters going home and that type of thing. And my fourth request would be that assuming that a customer creates a profile online, perhaps we could have it so that the access could be given by families into the profile, so that you could have grandparents making access to prepaid accounts and that type of thing. And these are not new original ideas on my part. I've taken them off of various transit places across the country, and they're to allow for more usage from families and from young people that work on Friday and Saturday evenings.
Mr. CEO, any comment on those requests?
If it's the will of council, I can certainly make some submissions. I just ask for some clarity. When Councillor Olson says kiosk, do you mean like a bus shelter, or are you referring to something inside a building for people to go and interact with the staff?
Well, inside, perhaps you could establish a kiosk at the I'm thinking in terms of the hospital, somebody who goes to the hospital and they don't have a cell phone. Perhaps we could have something, arrangement with the hospital to order rides and that type of things, or perhaps even at the MCC at the main desk at the MCC. That's what I'm thinking.
So Council, you're thinking that this kiosk would have the capability of getting the user a ride. It's not so much as sheltering.
Yeah, that's better said, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CAO?
I'm happy to put forth any suggestions or ideas on behalf of council and on behalf of the community at large. If that's your preference, be most pleased to, Ms. Van Ravensway and I together would jointly draft something and submit it. So there's some formal correspondence beyond what I might say verbally in any number of meetings. If that's the will of council, happy to do so.
Okay, thank you for that. Wait, I'll go back one more time. Mr. Olson, did you have anything left on transit?
Yes, I did. I don't know if this is appropriate, but the Niagara Poverty Reduction Network letter, it's about transit. I can wait though if you prefer.
Okay, let's see if there's anything. I know Councilor Hildebrand has a transit item. So Mr. Councilor Hildebrand, let's go to you next, please.
Oh, thank you very much for this opportunity. Obviously, transit is one of my high priority items. To the Director of Recreation, it must be a real conflict for you since all the issues that the NRT has listed in the Matt Robinson memo that he sent to us, you have already solved, and the costs were well defined and less than $200,000 for that service. Let me start with the list, and then I'll just summarize my list to make it easier for my comments. First of all, I thought after we had this long discussion about NRT at the last time that we were inviting the NRT to show up before council. I hope that's still in the offing, that they are going to show up and talk to us. The second point I'd like to talk to you is on page 2, which references the analysis and solutions that 88% of the riders are taking pre-booking. And then the other thing he talks about is the early morning 7 o'clock pickup and connections at the Seaway Mall and NC Niagara College. Let's start first with the connections. As you know, you had solved that problem and had connections for Pelham Transit at both the Niagara College and the Seaway Mall. The fact that Matt is suggesting that maybe it's going to be solved with consolidation makes me wonder. Maybe the question is, maybe we should be joining Welland Transit rather than Via. Maybe that's a solution that would work for something. So that's just a comment on that. The early morning pickup and start at 7 o'clock. The memo, so he's starting at 6:30, which is great. But what I don't understand is the memo also states that the vehicles are all parked in Grimsby. To me, this makes no sense. It takes a minimum of 30 minutes just to get a vehicle to Pelham, so the 6:30 start really just gets us maybe a 7 o'clock start. Don't we have a couple spots in town at the town-owned property where NRT could park a couple vans? What about the suggestion of using local drivers like Uber always does? Hey, this would eliminate the need for a 6:30 start. What about the 10 o'clock stop? For the seniors, I really believe that the streets in Pelham roll up at 9. Maybe for the other things that Councillor Olson was mentioning, we need to make an exception. Let's talk about pre-booking. The memo states that it's presently causing the system problems as 88% of the riders are using the system. That's no surprise because our seniors don't have the technology to use the advanced system and have advanced phones. This is the system that Pelham Transit used to use and you used very flexibly. The cost, he suggests, is going to increase because he has to perform this service. I don't understand that. And fourthly is specialized transit data. We have never had any details from Matt on specialized data ever. I'm not sure what it takes to get information from him, or specialized data. Is this a service that has no data, or don't they know what the data is for specialized service? Because that to me is part of this transit plan that needs to be have data so we know what we're paying for. So in summary, to make it easier for you, these are the items I'm talking about. The NRT showing up at council, the concerns and solutions he talks about. He talks about connections, early morning, late night. And then he talks about the location, pre-booking and cost, and specialized transit data. So to the Director of Recreation, could you address those issues for me, please?
Ms. Van Ravensway, thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your questions, Councillor. So just as you noted, the pre-booked trips for Pelham is 12%. I know that the data on page 2 is at 88% on-demand trips. That means that they've called for the ride an hour before. 12% have serviced the pre-booked option, which began in September. So according to this, we basically had 1 month of pre-booking. And that pre-booking, just so that everyone realizes, you can pre-book up to 3 days in advance and up to, I believe, 10 o'clock the day prior. So it is, a good start. And we have requested this. We requested this from the beginning, and they have implemented it. And we have the data for 1 month. I do realize that in the memo, there's a fair amount of conversation with regard to the issues that could result from the pre-booking. And at this time, obviously we would have to have further conversation with the region if they intend on changing that again, because that is something that we requested from the beginning. With regard to the early morning, yes, we did ask that the service begin at 7 a.m. previously to the change. You could not get a ride at 7 a.m. The drivers would start to drive at 7 a.m. So that would make, we had many complaints from residents that would make their trips longer, and they'd be late for work, late for appointments, and so forth. So they did improve the service, that the drivers are now in the vehicle at 6:30. And yes, it is also mentioned that all vehicles are now parked in Grimsby instead of at the MCC in town. As we all know, the MCC does have parking issues. So we ask that the vans be removed. The vans, we had up to 13 vans parked on a daily basis, which takes up, 13 spots, and as well as their vehicles when the drivers arrive. We have spoken to the region with regard to parking the Pelham vans here at the MCC, 1 or 2 vans, so it would make the service quicker. And at this point, they're not entertaining that. They would like all the vans in one spot for servicing, and so it's convenient for any driver to pick up any van. With regard to the destinations in Welland, at the present time, as we know, if any resident wanted to go to Niagara College or Seaway Mall, they would be taken to the terminal downtown, and then they need to get on another bus and brought back to where they would like to to be. So with the new governance model, from the beginning, the region has stated that this is an opportunity that could be corrected. But with this system on demand, the NRT on demand, it is not available. And I just wanted to note one other thing, Councillor Olson, you were requesting a later time for Fridays and Saturdays, and at the present time, the service runs from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 6 days a week, and that includes Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Van Ravensway. Councillor Hildebrand?
Just one. You did a great job of answering all my questions. Just one you missed, and I excuse you for that because I rambled on and gave you a lot to answer. And that was, how come we don't have any data with regards to specialized service? None whatsoever. Nor have we ever, has he ever commented on it. Can you explain that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can request that again through regional staff, and at this time we may receive an answer. That is not specialized. You're not pertaining to the specialized transit through the on-demand system. You're asking for the regional specialized transit system, correct?
That's right.
Because we do have the specialized on-demand, the regional system, which is separate from the NRT on-demand.
Correct. And that to me complements the regular system that we have on the NRT.
Correct. Correct.
So you understand what I'm asking for?
I do.
Thank you.
And we will request that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. It does seem rather strange. You'd think that'd be a giving point, having everyone, all the vans parked at Grimsby. You'd wonder why they couldn't have the two vans that service Pelham. I don't know. Obviously, someone, maybe that's a place where we can do a little more communicating. Hard to believe that they wouldn't, for the sake of maintenance or whatever, that they're going to stick with that. It's, I don't know, it's kind of beyond comprehension that that they couldn't leave two vans here in Pelham. But perhaps the Mr. CAO could bring that to their attention and make it a talking point, perhaps. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Councillor Olson, you have your hand up.
I do. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to it's 8.5.3. Niagara Poverty Reduction Network, and they've sent us a letter in support of on demand. And you know, I was reading through this, and we do have need in our community, and circumstances can change in a very big way, in a big hurry, and transportation is one of the biggest barriers to people using the food banks in Canada. And there are people right now who are living right in our community who are living on $9 to $12 a day after the rent. And our charge for transportation takes up a considerable portion of that if they go to the food bank or go for a medical appointment. So what I'm suggesting again to the CAO to present, or Ms. Van Ravensway to present to On Demand, is perhaps a review of 50% on rides for people who are in need and who make an application to have a reduction in the rates on their profile, and perhaps even 2 free rides a month to the food bank and 2 free rides a month to medical appointments, so that they can reduce the cost, because I think this is going to be, it's becoming a pandemic on its own, is the cost of living for a number of our people in our community. So that's the comment and observation I'd like to make, and perhaps you could discuss that as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. A question to Ms. Van Ravens beyond that point, or to the CAO. Does not St. Catharines on their own transit system, well, I believe it's regional now, do they not have reduced fares for a certain segment of their society, or am I wrong in that? Is it all $3? Ms. Van Ravens, right? Oh, I see Mr. CAO has his hand up. Mr. CAO?
I'm only partially qualified to answer this because the town of Pelham as a local area municipality does not participate in, we do not provide Ontario Works. We do not have a social services division the region does that on behalf of Her Majesty throughout Niagara. My previous employment has been with 3 different municipalities that did provide those services. And within the ambit of those, there were certainly programs that pertain to subsidies for either free bus passes, depending which municipality we're talking about, or heavily subsidized ones, so as to assist with transportation for those in need. And in Niagara, it's the region of Niagara that provides those services. I am remiss, or I've been removed from that for more than 2 years now, so I can't tell you what exactly Niagara region provides. I can tell you that I would be surprised if it was the city of St. Catharines. I would not be surprised if it was Niagara region providing that service ultimately. I'm not sure through what program at the moment, but that would be my guess. And certainly to the extent that it answers Councillor Olson's inquiry, the Niagara Regional Transit presentation we have is the culmination of 8 years' work by dozens of professionals and hundreds of volunteers, and it's thousands of hours to get to this point. The fee is based on a sustainable model. That's my general commentary with respect to programs that specifically help those who are financially disadvantaged in our economy. I think the region is partially the answer, but I think if Pelham really want to explore something, we do that in connection with Pelham Cares somehow. That would be the other part of my answer. It won't be a local government program, not directly, and I would anticipate it being a regional one. But if we were to do something, we'd need a partner.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions on any regional agenda items? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the last category I would call are the advisory committee minutes.
Okay, any comments on the last category? And Madam Clerk, I don't see any.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if there are no further comments, the vote on the consent agenda will begin with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to staff reports requiring action. Your first report this evening is from the Clerk's Department. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Kaur. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2021-0163 Clerks Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, JAAC, 2022 to 2024 proposal, and that Council approve the 2022 to 2024 proposal to coordinate AODA compliance for 2022 to 2024 with the Harrington Group Ltd. At a cost of $10,000 per year, and that the town clerk be directed to prepare the necessary bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the said agreement for the next regular meeting of council. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, questions on this Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee item? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This vote will begin with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that vote carries. For you, Mr. Mayor, that brings us to our next item. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2021-0173, 2022 municipal and school board election, vote counting equipment and alternative voting methods, and that Council reaffirm the use of AccuVote optical scanning vote tabulators and touchscreen vote tabulators, and that Council approve and support a hybrid voting approach for the 2022 municipal and school board election, specifically using a combination of in-person voting and special on-demand ballots. And that the clerk be directed to prepare the bylaw for voting, vote counting, equipment, and alternative voting methods for council consideration prior to May 1st of 2022. And that the clerk be directed to review and update all procedures required for the conduct of the 2022 municipal election in accordance with the requirements of the Municipal Elections Act. And that the clerk be directed to prepare a policy regarding circumstances in which the municipality would require a recount. And that the mayor and clerk be provided the delegated authority to execute any agreements necessary to implement the 2022 municipal and school board election. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. I see we have we are joined, I believe she's been at the meeting from the outset, the clerk, Ms. Wilfred. I take it that you have complete confidence that these voting machines are indeed good for one more round of elections, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I do have complete confidence in the machines, and we have reached out to our supplier that does the maintenance and has extra parts for us, and they also have complete confidence in these machines and indicate that they can last another election.
Okay, thank you. I will now open this to the rest of council. Any questions or comments? And I see Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things I did when I left my regular employment was I went and worked for the government in terms of elections. So not only did I do a municipal election, I did a provincial election and a federal election. I can tell you from my experience, the federal elections are the least professionally run elections. They're all paperwork. They're crossing off of lists. And you go to these people, they have to record stuff on paper. I can tell you, because of the issues that I have with my name, they don't even check. They just find the name Hildebrand and cross me off. I worked with some of these people in a clerk's position at these polls, and I shook my head at the quality of work. And then when you get to the final end of the federal election, you go to the place where they verify the count and all the ballots, and the number of senior people that are there counting the ballots, trying to balance things, I just shook my head. But anyway, there's lots of people, and the results do come out the way they have, and the federal government's happy with it. I can tell you the next best method is what the municipality uses. Their vote tabulators. I've been through that. I've trained on that and done all that stuff, and they work great. The best, obviously, is the provincial one, where you get your voting card that has a scanning mechanism on it. Basically, you went there, they scanned it through an optical scanner, and basically that produced your voting certificate, and you threw it through a machine, and it counted everything for you. You showed up at the headquarters at the final day, and all you did is pulled out your tape, and that was the voting results. So yes, I'm all in favor of what the clerk is recommending. I think it's the best for what we have. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor, it almost seems like you're suggesting that the Green Party might have won the last federal election. Thank you for your comments, Councillor. Any other comments on this item on the agenda? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if there are no further comments, I will begin this vote with Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
and that carries. Mr. Mayor, that brings us to our next item on the agenda. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2021-0178 for information purposes, and that Council approve option number 2, the usage of the Accuracy Room as a future injection site. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. I will turn to Council. We've heard from Council Hildebrand at the beginning of this, at the CEO's report. Any other comments on this report? I would like to, if I may, ask the fire chief. Are you aware of what the numbers? Not that it's kind of immaterial, but any idea what the vaccination numbers are at the latest clinics we had at the MCC?
Through Mr. Mayor, yeah, it's around a few hundred.
Okay.
I don't know the exact number. I was there. We've had clinics the last couple of days. I was down there today, and it was it really based most of them around walk-ins. But what they're anticipating is the approval for 5 to 11-year-olds. Pfizer submitted their last report today to Health Canada, so there's anticipation that the young ones will be approved, and then so now they have to put the game plan in place to how we're going to do this. So that's when basically the timing of it would happen is the first of the late December, early in January that they would start, if approved, to do the kids, and that's why they're asking you to kind of organize these rooms. So that'll really ramp up the number of vaccinations.
Okay, thank you for that, Chief. I see Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think this, our efforts in the MCC should be a point of pride for everybody. We provided a safe and comfortable place for people to go for their vaccination. So I would certainly support this. We've come a long way and we've still got a ways to go. So that would be my vote.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions before I turn to the clerk? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this vote will begin with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
And Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that vote carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, our next item on the agenda is 10.2.4, and I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2021-0181, Mandatory COVID Vaccination for Elected Officials, Amendments to the Code of Conduct for Members of Council, and that Council approve the Code of Conduct for Members of Council, Policy S201-15 as amended. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. On this item of the agenda, 10.2.4, is there any questions, discussion? I see Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment stating, be it resolved, the council defer this report back to staff until the Ontario courts have had an opportunity to review all legalities as related to the subject matter.
Okay, thank you. Before we discuss the amendment, have you got a seconder? Councillor Stewart, are you seconding the Councillor Hildebrand's motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, now we will debate the amendment.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. That would actually not be an amendment. It is a motion to defer, so the motion is now on the floor, and Council can have a discussion whether or not they agree as to if it should or should not be deferred.
Thank you. So this is on the amendment, this discussion. Councillor Wink?
So for this to go through the Ontario courts, this could be months, years before this is resolved, and I don't see the need to be deferring this. Quite frankly, once we get into having meetings face-to-face, I don't want to be sitting next to someone who is not vaccinated.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. I also will be voting against this amendment. We discussed it at length last meeting. It is a voluntary, this council suggested or wanted to do this, looked like we wanted to do this anyway. It was a voluntary measure. So I will be voting against the amendment, just for the fact that, again, length of time and just the length of time. Any other questions or comments? I see Councillor Court.
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor. I presume it was 2 Mondays ago. I did fax or email the clerk my proof of my second dose of the vaccine, and I agree with Councillor Wink. I know it's a tough decision, but I think we need to, move forward, and everyone should be safe. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Court. Any other discussion on the amendment? Councillor Hildebrand.
I'd like to explain now why I'm making this amendment. I didn't make this amendment easily, without discussion with some people that I trust on the thing. When I went to university, one of the most useful courses I took at university was a law course. It informed me about the legal liability associated with my signature and stamp. The first high-level job I had was a plant manager for 10 years. And although I dealt with the province of Ontario and the Ministry of Consumer Relations, that's about the most my stamp endured to obtain the CSA rating on our products that we shipped and did that. When I became an engineering manager, things changed drastically, because then my engineering stamp, I ended up getting 3 of them provincially because I found it was easier if I was doing work out west or out east to have other stamps. Plus I obtained membership in the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. I've signed over thousands of drawings. I've got projects internationally, like in Romania, the CANDU reactor system. Part of my signature is over there. I've got signatures all over the world. My signature and my liability as an engineer never goes away. When I first became an engineering manager, I divulged or got rid of everything I owned, and basically my wife owned everything, because I knew the liability associated with my name. Even though I worked for a U.S. corporation and a Canadian corporation, you're still, as an engineer, heavily responsibility for the liability of what your signature states. I'm stating tonight, it's a recorded vote. When we get down to the end of this, you are essentially signing this and stating that everything is safe enough. And it's not, in my view, consented, informed decisions that people have to make. So therefore, that's my statement at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hildebrand. Any other questions, statements on the amendment? Councillor Stewart, you did second it. Do you wish to make a statement?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things is, there is a time factor involved, but the way things stand, it is going to be some time before this council does meet all in person. What was the projected date? Possibly March 2022. And at that time, because we all have different comfort levels of where we're willing to go and who we're willing to interact with on a personal level, at that time, I'm assuming, I hope I'm not wrong, that we will be meeting in a hybrid fashion, where those of us who are comfortable can be in the room and those of us who are not can participate by Zoom. And I think that solves the question that Councillor Hildebrand has about the process.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Court?
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor, to the question to you. You voted against the mandatory vaccination at region. Am I right or am I wrong with that? And if I'm wrong, I apologize.
I believe you're wrong on that. Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, you know, the confusion that occurred on that, Mr. Mayor, if I may help you out here, it depends on which paper you read. One of the paper reports had you and 4 others as voting against it. But in reality, that was just an amendment. When you look at here, listen to the minutes and go through all the details, that paper got it wrong. And they actually had 5 of you at the region voting against the amendment to have all council thing. At the final vote, when you went to the recorded vote, there were only 2 people that voted against the recorded vote, and you weren't one of them.
Yes.
But let me just finalize my statement. I didn't make this decision on my own. For clarity, I have talked to an external council member who worked for the Ontario government to get the latest update from a legal perspective. My amendment was made at the result of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on the amendment we're voting on? Madam Clerk, I don't see any. I call the vote on the amendment.
Yes, if there are no further comments, the vote to defer will begin with Councillor Olson.
No.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
No.
Councillor Hahn.
No.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
No.
Mayor Junkin.
No.
And that motion has been defeated, and that will bring us back to consideration of the main motion and to you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
And now on the main motion, any comment or questions on this? Councillor Hildebrand.
You have all heard my family history. I want to thank all those publicly who sent me emails in support of my vote and the reasons why I voted that way, because of my background. In my view, this revised motion can be seen as another step in diversiveness and further threats to tear apart collaboration, both at the council level but also by residents because of their many views on this subject. Initially, staff proposed a policy for elected officials to avoid these issues while maintaining safety for the public and council. The online format called Zoom was widely accepted and efficient while performing all the aspects of municipal business. I commend the CAO and those involved in developing the initial policy for the council. I understand, Mr. CAO, that staff were only doing their duty when preparing this revision as directed by the majority of council. As we work together to navigate this rapidly evolving COVID situation, I believe these ethical and legal principles remain constant in a free and democratic society. First and foremost, the right and responsibility of adults to make their own decision about their health and to be accorded respect for questioning mandates that have far-reaching social implications. For free, voluntary, and informed consent, human rights and responsibility, fiduciary duties for all governing authorities, and adherence to professional and institutional ethic code of conduct. Evidence, matters of conscience, and precaution is fundamental to the medical decision-making. Honest and open inquiry. As caring and responsible individuals, it's crucial that we remain open to listening to each other, continue to ask questions, and recognize that we are all doing the best we can to keep everyone safe. I want to make sure that you recognize that I am an elected official and I cannot be terminated by the town or council and will not give my rights as an elected official. The only way I can be terminated is through an election process. I am not resigning my seat, no matter what the result of this motion. To the clerk, please ensure that this is recorded in the minutes. Even our own Prime Minister could not terminate his Justice Minister who refused to change her testimony. He could only remove her from caucus and the party. She still sat as a member of Parliament. I can tell you I've been down this road before when it comes to disclosure of medical information as related to my ability to perform my senior level job. At that time, I was 30 years old. I was a professional and plant manager. It was amazing how when you become a young plant manager, it can be challenged through a vehicle I would have never expected. I can tell you I was successful in defending my position, and I obtained an insurance claim through through that process. I can tell you tonight, it almost seems the same to me. Tonight, I hope that my comments have caused each of my fellow councillors to reconsider their vote and their responsibilities and the importance of their vote on this revised code of conduct for councillors as you reflect on the information I have just presented. You, like me, are signing on to a declaration that's forcing people to mandate a vaccination. That, to me, is the same as my engineering stamp and my engineering study. I can tell you, your vote will have an effect, and the results will not only be felt short-term, but I believe it'll be felt long-term. Thank you for your indulgence in listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on the agenda item before us? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's no further comment, this vote will begin with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
No.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
No.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that vote carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to the presentation and consideration of bylaws. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Kaur. Be it resolved that Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaws, do now read a first, second, and third time and do pass same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. Number 1, Bylaw 4395, 2021, being a bylaw to amend the Bylaw 4068, 2019, confirming various appointments to boards, commissions, and committees of the Town of Pelham, and to appoint members to the Pelham Public Art Committee, being Schedule O. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay. Any discussion on this item in the agenda? Don't see any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will begin this vote with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to our motions and notices of motions. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Hahn, and I would ask Councillor Stewart if she would like to read her motion into the record.
Yes, I would.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Before I do proceed, I just want to make a comment that I am putting this forward, but initially this idea had been brought forward by Councillor Hahn. And at that time, I thought it would be an ongoing annual thing, but be that as it may, if we have to do this on a year-by-year basis, that's what I'm willing to do. The motion reads, whereas the Town of Pelham is committed to enhancing engagement with the community and building strong communities, and whereas the Council for the Town of Pelham has proclaimed the year 2022 as the Year of the Garden, and whereas gardening is an activity enjoyed by many, which provides numerous benefits to the gardener. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Pelham Council direct staff to research various gardening initiatives the Town of Pelham can consider launching in 2022, including, but not limited to, a garden bed competition, community vegetable gardens, and bee-friendly gardens. And that Council direct staff to include potential budget implications in the said report back to Council. And that Council direct staff to report back by November 15th, 2021. Thank you.
To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you for that, Councillor, and seconded by Councillor Hahn. Councillor, again on the motion, first you, Councillor Stewart, you already had some comments. Any other further comments to your motion?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hahn, any additional comments?
Through the mayor, no, I think Councillor Stewart summed it up quite well. This was something that I had put forward as far as an initiative back in 2020, and at that time, I had put it forward as though it would be an annual event, competition, but that didn't occur this year. I'm not sure why, but nonetheless, I fully support this, and I hope that we can move this forward.
Okay, thank you. And if I can remember correctly, 2 weeks ago, I thought perhaps the CAO had some comments that maybe this shouldn't proceed right now and should be under a budget consideration. Any clarification on those comments, Mr. CAO?
Pleased to offer some if I may. We would be happy, the portion of the motion suggesting that it be referred to budget, or that there be commentary that council can take and consider to budget, we think makes good sense. This year in your budget, although we're still working out the exact details, there will be a section of items for council's consideration where council has indicated some amount of interest over the course of the year. So items that you can add into a budget that the staff build. So I can assure you that whatever comes of the report and whatever options council is interested in, we'll put some pricing in to the budget. Now, that being said, there are some challenges with the November 15th, sorry, I think it was 15th timeline. This is an item that does need to be discussed with our labor and employment partner in CUPE. And so there are some significant implications associated with some of the options in the report. And I don't think that we cannot promise to have this back for November 15th. In fact, I think that'll be quite difficult for us to do. I do think we can have it for early December, though. I do think that is doable. So as far as time goes, and beyond that, I can certainly speak on behalf of staff. We certainly thought that the motions last year were for a one-off, a trial pilot project. As far as the community gardening goes, and that was not a successful pilot project. At any rate, when it came time to do the planting and gardening, you'll recall we were in a very hard lockdown and staff did the work. And I haven't been here forever, but Pelham's Gardens really looked fantastic this year and still do. Go outside Town Hall here, it's spectacular. So that's how we got to the place we are today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. Councillor Stewart, it's your motion. Would you be willing to move that date back till early December as opposed to November 15th?
Yes, I could do that. We have a meeting on December 6th and again on the 13th. Either one of those dates would be suitable.
Okay, Mr. CAO, do you have a wish on either one of those?
If we just generalize to December, it would be our preference to come sooner rather than later. It's always better to have decision points sooner rather than later. But that way we have some flexibility as far as getting answers. Good answers, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hahn, you seconded it?
Yes, the mayor, I just wanted to make a comment. Mr. Cook, maybe I misheard you, and if I did, then I apologize. But did you suggest that as far as doing this in 2020, the pilot, that it wasn't successful? Well, we had, I think, 7, if I remember correctly, 7 groups that took on a garden. And of those, I think I want to say it was the Scouts or Beavers, I think of North Pelham, that won. I'm just wondering, as far as it was the first of its kind. It was kind of last minute. Nobody could have banked on the situation that we're in a worldwide pandemic. Just wondering, how do you decide, I guess, whether it was successful or not successful, considering the Scouts or Beavers would have probably argued with you on that point?
Well, the winning projects were pretty good, but we had a dozen, we only had take up of about 50%. And several of them were not attended throughout the entire process. And the project cost more, we felt the project cost more to run than was saved. So it was not, from our perspective, financially successful either. regardless, I don't think focusing on the past, it was done last minute, and it was done as an attempt to give our residents a good, healthy outlet during a time of crisis. So I think in that sense, it was certainly worth trying. We were quite willing, and I thought it was a good idea. This time around, though, this report will involve various concepts and various options, and I think we'll get to something better because, of course, we have learned from our recent experience.
Okay. Councillor Hahn, any other comments?
No, none.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Corr.
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor, to either Councillor Stewart or the CAO. What is the total cost of this project? Or
Thank you. Councillor, that's Mr. CAO.
Well, we haven't written the report as yet. Certainly, gardening initiatives in Pelham, I think we have generally speaking, there'll be a lot of community interest. There's a lot of community knowledge and skill and industry skill. So I think we'll try to come to you with a couple of different options, and they can be probably from very few tax dollars to quite a lot, of course. So I don't think we have an answer to that as yet, but and ultimately you will decide what it costs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor Corr.
yes, a follow-up question to the CEO. So what was the cost last year of the project?
Mr. CEO. Mr. CAO? Well, we lost him.
Maybe we could ask the treasurer?
Yes, no, well, let's go to the Director of Public Works. Mr. Mark?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So with respect to the cost for last year's program, there was some cost savings with respect to the amount of materials that Public Works would normally use in our beds. Off the top of my head, I can't recall the exact number of beds that we didn't plant in. I believe it was around 7. But so there was some cost savings there, and those were in the order of a few $1,000s in planting materials. And then there was the cost of the administration of the actual program itself. So there was some prize money that was provided in recognition of the winners for the planting competition. I can't recall off the top of my head what those numbers were. I believe maybe Teresa can comment, or we can report back to council on those as part of the report that we bring in December.
Councillor Corr?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I don't have those numbers offhand, so we'll have to report back.
Thank you. Councillor Corr, any other comments before I go on?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, to any person that would like to answer it, was under 5,000, 10,000, 2,000?
I don't know if any councillor member or any director or the CEO would like to guess at this time. I see Councillor Hahn has her hand. Do you recall any financial figure?
Through the mayor, I don't have the motion in front of me. That was some time ago, but I believe the motion was something like somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 was to be put aside for prizing. And I think that, like I said, I think there was something like 7 beds, I think, that were planted out at no cost to the town as far as from the plant perspective. And at that time, the motion was just like $3,000 to $5,000 for prizing for the winners, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Corr, is that close enough for you?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Oh, and I'd like to report that the CAO is back after his journey in cyberspace. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, what I'm understanding from discussion is that council is agreeable to amending the date from November 15th to December. If all of council is satisfied with this change, I will accept it as a friendly amendment. And if there is no further discussion, the vote on the motion, including the date change to December, will begin with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Corr.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Stewart,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin,
Yes?
and that vote carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to our in-camera portion of this evening. I do have a motion put forth by Counselor Wink, seconded by Counselor Olson. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public in order to consider a matter under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as follows: personal matters about an identifiable individual and labor relations or employee negotiations. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And J, a trade secret or scientific, technical, or financial information that belongs to the municipality or local board and has monetary value or potential monetary value. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Any discussion on going into in camera? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, and I will begin this vote with Counselor Hahn.
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Counselor Kaur.
Yes.
Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Stewart.
Yes.
Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that vote carries. Mr. Mayor, if you would please provide me a moment to stop the live stream and recording.
Yes, of course.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I can confirm that our live stream and recording has commenced.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Therefore, I do have a motion put forth by Counselor Olson, seconded by Counselor Stewart. Be it resolved, the Council adjourn the in-camera session and the Council do now rise with report. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, any discussion on this item? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Thank you. I will begin the vote with Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Counselor Kaur.
Yes.
Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Stewart.
Yes.
Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that carries. I do have a motion put forth by Counselor Hildebrandt, seconded by Counselor Kaur. Be it resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer be and is hereby authorized to undertake the directions provided during the in-camera meeting of October 18th, 2021. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Any discussion? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. For the vote, I will begin with Counselor Kaur.
Yes.
Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Stewart.
Yes.
Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that does carry. Mr. Mayor, that brings us to the confirming bylaw. I do have a motion put forth by Counselor Kaur, seconded by Counselor Wink. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and passed, being a bylaw number 4396/2021 to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Pelham at its regular meeting held on the 18th day of October 2021. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Any discussion on the bylaw? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
I will begin this vote with Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Counselor Stewart.
Yes.
Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Counselor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that does carry. Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to adjournment, and I do have a motion put forth by Counselor Olson, seconded by Counselor Stewart. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for November 1st, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
I don't see any. It's all yours.
Thank you. And for the vote, I will begin with Counselor Stewart.
Yes.
Counselor Wink.
Yes.
Counselor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Counselor Kaur.
Yes.
Counselor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, and that carries. Mr. Mayor, it is 8:42, and you may gavel at your meeting.
Good night, Council. Good night, SLT.